With the Dark Lord temporarily defeated, the Easterlings were free from his direct influence. However, the hatred and corruption that was bred into them for generations led them to despise the people of the West, most especially the men of Gondor. As the Easterlings spread from the lands around the Sea of Rhûn, they once more came into conflict with the West. In the year 490 of the Third Age, the Easterlings invaded Gondor, but were ultimately defeated by Tarostar, son of the king, who ascended to the throne in 492 and took the name Romendakil in the year 500 following their victory. Decades later, in 541, the Easterlings again invaded, this time attacking Ithilien and killing the old king of Gondor in the fighting. Romendakil's son Turambar then inherited the crown and continued the war, defeating the Easterlings and following them into the lands of Rhûn, parts of which were conquered and held for many years. With the Easterling threat diminished, Gondor was able to expand into the south as well, but the prosperity of these years eventually came to an end, and so the Easterlings marched west in 1240, only to be defeated once again. After losing another war, the Easterling threat diminished again for several centuries, during which time several groups joined together to become the mighty Confederacy of Wainriders. When a devastating plague left the kingdom of Gondor weak and vulnerable, the Wainriders saw an opportunity and invaded the lands of Rhovanion, slaughtering and enslaving its population. A few decades later, the Northmen revolted and with the aid of Gondor took back some of their former lands. However, the Wainriders would get a chance for revenge in 1944 when they allied with the Haradrim of Nir Harad and Variags of Khand to invade Gondor from both the north and south. And while the Wainriders won a great victory in the north, killing King Ondahed and his sons, the invaders were defeated in the south, allowing the defending army to then march and finish off the remaining Easterlings. After 1,000 years spent recovering part of his strength, Sauron took refuge in Dol Guldur. Knowing that the Dark Lord was still dangerous, the Valar of Aman sent the Istari around this same time, 5 Maya spirits which took the form of elderly men instructed to give counsel and help protect the free peoples of Middle-earth. Of these powerful beings, the 2 blue wizards, Alatar and Palando, ventured into the Far East, while the others focused on the West. Although little is known concerning their ultimate fate, the blue wizards were believed to have fought against Sauron in their own ways, and may have played pivotal roles in limiting the size of the Easterling armies. Meanwhile, many believe Sauron directed the Witch King of Angmar to wage a terrible war against the kingdom of Arnor, destroying their lands and people before Gondor and the elves could counterattack, defeating the Dark Armies and forcing their retreat to Mordor. With an evil being known as the Necromancer rumored to have taken refuge in the forest of Mirkwood, Gandalf the Grey went to investigate, causing the Dark Lord to flee into the east, where he would rally the Easterlings once more to his cause. This began the period known as the Watchful Peace in the West, which lasted roughly 4 centuries. When the years of peace ended, a new group of Easterlings known as the Balkoth allied with the Orcs to invade the lands of Kalenardan in 2510, defeating the armies of Gondor. However, the Northmen, known as the Eotheod, soon intervened and ended the invasion. Over the next few decades, the Easterlings continued their raids into the west, this time focusing on the lands of Rohan, killing their king Eorl in the year 2545. After 3,000 years, Sauron had regained some part of his former strength, but would never be whole again without the power of the One Ring. And so when he learned that the ring had been discovered, he prepared for a final confrontation with the free peoples of the West. The War of the Ring, as it became known, began roughly in the year 3018 of the Third Age, and came to involve the Easterlings along with the Haradrim and Variags, who served in the armies of Mordor, fighting in both the southern and northern campaigns. In the south, they fought against the armies of Gondor in the Battle of the Pelennor Fields. However, the bulk of their forces were sent north, meant to sweep through dwarven lands and join the Orcs of Dol Guldur in the destruction of the Woodland Realm. From there, they would attack Lothlorien before passing through the Misty Mountains to take Rivendell and march south. Opposing the Great Easterling army were the dwarves of Erebor and the men of Dale, who held them back for 3 days before being forced to retreat into the Lonely Mountain. Although the city of Dale was lost, the battle continued at the gates of Erebor, where King Brand of Dale was killed. The dwarven king Dain, upon seeing the death of his ally and friend, rushed to his side and died defending his body. After suffering tremendous losses, the surviving humans and dwarves took refuge inside the mountain, until word at last reached them that Sauron had been defeated in the south and his armies dispersed and destroyed. With their master fallen, the Easterlings lost their ambition and many deserted, defeated, allowing for the combined armies of men and dwarves to charge out of Erebor, forcing the Easterling invaders into retreat. Thanks to the efforts of these allied warriors, Sauron's eastern reinforcements were ultimately held off, and they never again posed the same kind of threat against the West. Although fighting continued on into the Fourth Age, the Easterlings were eventually subdued by Aragorn, known after the War of the Ring as King Elessar of the Reunited Kingdom. Love audiobooks? Then be sure to check out Audible, where they have the world's largest collection available. Simply sign up through the link in the description box below and get 2 free audiobooks to start out. A special thanks to all those who contribute to Civilization X, like Warden of the X, Sir Daeron of House Ashford, Magic, the Shaman, Joey, Lady Phoenician, and Honir, the Dead Raven. If you would like to help Civilization X, click on the Patreon link, and please be sure to like and subscribe, and click on the links to see more.